Welcome to the Pontification Pals Podcast. I'm Chase.
And I'm Noah.
And we're the Pontification Pals.
We bring deep biblical pontifications to life with a lighthearted and fun twist, with special guests each week. Real stories, real truths, real fun.
Let's get to it.
Hey, pal.
Hey.
This is season 2.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Oh, good job. I like it. 2022.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Isn't
And
that
there's
awesome?
two of us.
And there's 2 of us.
Yeah.
It couldn't get any better.
That's great.
I love it. You have 2 waters sitting there.
Indeed.
We have 2 outlines, 2 Bibles, 2 mics. It's
Yes.
just 2 pairs of glasses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a twofer.
Twofer.
I like it.
Sorry.
It's okay. Can you believe we had a whole season, 10 episodes, and a bonus Easter episode?
I thought we were going to get bored after 2 episodes.
I did
I'm surprised we made it.
I know. I'm excited for the future. We've got a lot of more people we want to have on, don't we?
You don't.
You don't count. Our 12 listeners are not bored.
I'm kidding. I enjoy this, friend.
I love it. We
Also,
appreciate you, Bailey.
talking about those 12 listeners, shout
Yeah.
out to Dylan Colbo. He told me he listens to every episode when it comes out.
I think Dylan and Casey are the top 2 fans.
Yeah.
Because Casey said to me too. She said she watches it like a TV series. Like when a new episode comes out, like she doesn't
That's
miss
great.
it. So I love it. So
Yeah.
you guys can fight it out for maybe the first one to text either Chase or I
Yeah.
after listening to this episode gets some sort of a special prize.
Yeah. And
As
Noah
top
will
listener.
pay for it, so.
Yeah, as everything else. Just kidding. Yeah, so I'm excited though, season 2. We got some good lineup of guests coming out, and we are excited for a wide range of people, ages, and I guess like occupations or just walks of life, as we've had the first season. We had Lila, 5th grade, 4th grader. We had Joyce, we
8th
had
grader.
yeah, 8th grader. We had, Andrew Gross and another, and Bailey, who are both kind of freshly out of college. We had, people going into ministry. We had just a wide range of
Yeah.
Victor, who was fresh out of college, just
Yep.
kind of graduating. So I loved the wide range of people that we had on.
It's been good.
So I like it.
Appreciate it.
So let's kick it off, get into season 2 with a pontification of the week. You have, and this is one that for a long time you've really been working on. You
Yeah.
can tell maybe the little bit of the background quick of
Yeah,
it,
I'm
how it
gonna-
came to be,
Yep.
and then tell us what it is. So it's Psalm 1.
It's
and
Psalm
I'm excited
1.
for this. So take it away.
So this pontification is brought to you in part by Trevor Schubert.
Shout out.
And it's made possible by viewers like you, so thank you.
This is not PBS, but it sounds like it.
And what happened was we were doing our discipleship thing, and we were, looking at Psalm 1, circling things, underlining things. And in verse 1, I'll read it here real quick for you.
This is kind of in connection too with, I remember you had a pontification of the week, I believe, with the 30 things you observed
Yes,
or whatever.
yeah, it's
in
related
Acts.
to that.
So that kind of same study along the lines.
Yep.
Great.
And so here in verse 1, it says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers." And so in that verse, we identified there was a list of actions that are being committed: walk, stand, and sit. And so that's the title of the pontification: walk, stand, sit, because I can't think of anything else.
I love it.
So we were looking at that list, and then Trevor asked, "Is there a progression in this list?" And immediately, I don't know if the Holy Spirit anointed me or something.
I bet it did.
But I was like, there really is a a progression there, Trevor. And both of us just lit up like a bunch of, I guess, light bulbs. Those are
Basically
what
like
light up.
Christmas Vacation when Clark Griswold
Yes.
turned on. It was just like
It was literally, that's what it felt like in me, though.
Yeah.
It was in me.
inside of you, the
And so-
electricity. I love it.
When we look at this progression, we see these 3 statements of what a blessed man doesn't do or what the righteous man doesn't do in this psalm. And the first one is, he walks not in the counsel of the wicked. So when we look at that, the righteous man doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked, so he's not taking in, let's say, worldly counsel and actually seriously considering it and allowing it to govern himself.
He's not making decisions based on what the wicked are telling him.
Correct. He's not doing that. He's not walking in the counsel of the wicked. However, if you do walk in the counsel of the wicked, it then leads to the next one, which is standing in the way of sinners. So you go from listening and receiving the counsel from the wicked to standing in the way of sinners, to your going from walking to standing. And the way I like to kind of picture this is like in the old days, maybe 1920, I'm probably wrong with that, but like they had TVs in the windows, like you'd walk by them downtown, you know what I mean?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
think it was probably later in the 20s.
Okay.
but like 50s.
All right, so whatever they say, whatever year they
Close.
say, some of the old people probably know what I'm talking about. But like you're walking by and you see something that catches your eye, so you stop and you watch. And so I think that's what happens here is you hear counsel from worldly people, worldly advice, and you like it. It sounds pleasing to you, so you stop. And now you kind of start living that out.
Sure.
You're standing in the way of sinners. And what exactly is the way of sinners? Well,
Right.
Paul in Galatians chapter 5 talks about the fruits of the Spirit and the
Yes.
fruits of the flesh. So like sexual immorality, adultery, idolatry, all of these things are the way of sinners. So you walk in the counsel, you hear stuff you like, you start to kind of enjoy it, so you stop and you start partaking in it and becoming more serious. And then as you become more serious about this stuff, it leads into the last progression, which is sitting in the seat of scoffers. So you've gone from walking to standing, and now you are sitting in the seat of scoffers. And so you've become comfortable. Like when we were at Disney World and we were walking around all the time, my feet hurt so bad, and it felt so good to sit down, very comfortable. So you're sitting comfortably with these scoffers, and I asked the question, well, like, what are they scoffing at? And I think the only plausible thing I really came up with is that they're scoffing righteousness and they're scoffing God. Because when we look here, we see that it's the difference between the righteous and the wicked, the way of the righteous man, the way of the wicked. And what do wicked men scoff at but the thing that is contrary to them, which is righteousness? And so we see this progression of walking in the counsel of the wicked, standing in the way of sinners, and then sitting amongst scoffers and mocking and scoffing God and his people. And so that's kind of the pontification. There's a whole lot more to go through in that psalm, but that's just kind of what kicks it off. And so I'd encourage you to go look at that and enjoy that. But I also want to point out one thing in Psalm 1 where it talks about the righteous man is like a tree planted by streams of water. And it goes through and it says, it yields its fruit in its season, its leaf does not wither, and all that he does he prospers. And then the righteous man, again, it says, the Lord knows the way of the righteous. And I just want to kind of bring it back to the gospel and just remind us that we should strive for this, but we ultimately can't be this because we are sinners. And when we read Psalm 1, we need to kind of understand, like, hey, this is something I can work toward, but ultimately we need to let it remind us of Jesus as the perfect righteous man. He is the tree planted by streams of water. In all that he does, he prospers. Everything that Jesus Christ did was perfect and achieved its purpose. And so let's strive for that, but let's not forget that the true righteous man is Jesus when we're reading this psalm. So
that's great.
That's what I got for Psalm 1.
One verse I was thinking of as you talked about that progression is a verse that I really like, Psalm 16:11. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. So that's almost a little bit similar progression. Like he makes known the path of life, maybe that we're walking down in his presence. So now we're in his presence. There's fullness of joy. And at his right hand, even closer now. Like I just picture a courtroom where we come in. We see that in Zechariah with the high priest and him coming in and God taking off the filthy garments from him, and we see it kind of in Revelation and stuff, but like coming into God's presence and even being at his right hand, this position of power and importance and stuff. I just thought of that verse kind of as a contrast for the righteous person, which would be Jesus in that case, essentially, but he imputes his fruit that he it talks about, that he yields, all that he does, he prospers, that gets imputed to us, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And just to wrap that up too, I told Trevor this. I texted him when I found it, but I went and read St. Augustine's commentary on Psalm 1, and he saw this same progression and talked about it in the same way. So I told Trevor that me and him were on par with St. Augustine, and we're orthodox right now.
That's good.
You
always like to see
it's
that.
always nice when you see something and then you read like a theologian on it, and you're like, oh, they saw this, and it just makes
That's
you
encouraging. Yeah,
it's like, okay, I guess I can do this without help.
right. Kind of like when Justin affirms us, like in the last episode.
Yeah.
When we say something that he agrees with or likes, like that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so that's our pontification of the week. First one for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Good work, buddy. I like it.
Thank you.
I'm excited for some more. Okay, so this is a first for the podcast. Typically, when we introduce our guest, we get to be face-to-face with them. But we'll talk about the reason that that's not the case today. But we're going to go through a few things, and then we're going to let our guest join us.
Yeah.
So you start. Let's just go back and forth kind of with some things about our guest real quick.
This man
Yep.
worked in DSU admissions, and we went to DSU.
We did. Huge connection.
Big
He didn't recruit me, though.
No, I didn't get recruited by him either,
No.
but that's fine.
Yeah. Basically recruited Bailey. He typically does not like to wear shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, at least.
Yeah. you're gonna do number C. I don't know what that means.
Is a twin. He's a twin.
Okay. All
I don't know
right.
how that's confusing.
Do you see? Did you read?
Yeah, I didn't see.
It's different on
Oh,
mine.
that's why. Okay, then you. Oh,
I'll
okay.
I'll
do D on mine.
He has an amazing wife.
Good.
That's not.
Mostly because of who he is.
Yeah.
Like that she has to put up with him.
Oh.
Is what I meant.
Oh.
He was a part of a group, the Three Sailors, with
Yeah.
with a pseudonym or what? I don't know what you call it, like stage name of Harry Buddy. And so we would like to introduce to the Pontification Pals podcast, Fat Cat Mattress Matt Stone. Woo! Welcome to the podcast. Where have you been the last 8.5 minutes?
I was backstage. I don't do well with a lot of just time where I have
Serious
to be
talk?
silent. Yeah, when you guys are talking about the Bible, I feel very nervous.
Which is great that you're going into ministry and that makes you nervous.
it's
5
sort
minutes
a
of
weird
Bible talk.
thing. Yeah, trying to overcome my fears.
Maybe he will. one day.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we're
I was
not
gonna
sure.
say next time if we have someone walk up, we need to have like a fog machine or something.
There you go.
So
Yeah, I
we
like
should
it.
invest in that.
And we'll have
Release
to do
some
that.
doves.
Strobe lights.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We need to have a warning at the front of our videos that said like an epilepsy warning.
Yeah, right.
or
Like the
something.
video game. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you're watching this,
We need to
video,
start doing that.
This could cause seizures.
Caesar salad.
Oh man. Well, Matt, welcome.
Hey, hey, how's everybody doing?
I'm all right.
I didn't actually mean that.
Oh,
We
okay,
can just
then
move on.
whatever.
I care about you guys, but not enough to ask.
That's
Uh,
cool.
Well, we are actually going to talk about some of the things that we introduced you with
Okay.
as we get into the
Yeah.
podcast, but we're going to start right off the bat with some questions to get to know you that we
Okay.
typically ask. And
Sweet.
Chase is going to start it off.
Okay.
Favorite movie?
Quicker.
Yeah, it's man. I have to do two. So it's either Tommy Boy.
Oh, I saw that in
or,
the theater with my dad.
or-
They replayed it at the
Okay.
Madison Theater.
Yep. Either Tommy Boy or Big Fish. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Big Fish.
No.
Not familiar with that
Yeah.
one.
It's anyway. It tells
Because
a.
you're a big fish in a
It's
small pond.
it's about a big sort of fish of a story, but it's sort of a metaphorical piece.
Okay.
It's a really beautiful film.
Wrote it down.
I saw it in college, and it sort of sticks in my head.
Love it.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Now, this is favorite hymn or church song. And
Yeah.
and you did a lot of work with music team when you were at West Center, which was great. I don't know why
Sure.
that's funny, but I
Yeah.
thought it was good.
No, I wasn't. I was just smiling.
I know you're just happy. You're so joyful.
So
do you have
yeah,
a favorite?
I've got a
Give us-
few,
give us
but
a
I
few.
think I'll just give you one.
Okay.
I love How Deep the Father's Love for Us. Yeah, that one. I don't know. Every time there's
Me
a, yeah, there's good guitar versions of that.
Mm.
There's just sort of him with piano, and it's fantastic.
I love
great.
it.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
Favorite book? Probably there's a book called Butcher's Crossing.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a guy named John Williams who is considered one of America's greatest novelists, but he only wrote 3 novels in his whole life. And so I was introduced to him from another podcast, actually. There's a guy, Carl Truman, maybe you both know that name. He does, or he used to do the Mortification of Spin podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does, but he had said it was a book he had read, and so I just picked it up, and it's sort of it's like it feels like an ecclesiastical worldview where a guy is sort of confronting the bigness of life and the mortality we all face, and it sort of ends on a sour note, but it's sort of one of those like just beautifully sad books. So yeah,
Wow.
Butcher's Crossing.
Butcher's Crossing.
So yeah.
What were the other two novels that he wrote?
I can't remember. One for sure I know because it's sort of my name. It's called Stoner, which was the last name of the individual in it. It's about an English professor. I've read that one, an English professor at the University of Missouri. So it's sort of a half semi-biographical book that he used as a backdrop. So yeah, he was a novelist.
Huh. Good deal.
There you go.
I love it. Okay. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Probably Kelsey's lasagna. And actually, as we're recording this episode, she and her mother are going to be eating that this evening.
Oh, and you're missing
So
out.
I'm sort of, I'm missing out. But man, I don't know. Everybody probably says pizza, but pizza, Thai food, there you go. Those are the top three. Yeah.
Incredible.
That's good.
Good range there.
Incredible.
Incredible. So profound.
Oh, lasagna. Okay.
Oh, no, you guys. It's not like, this is lasagna like you've never had before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it'll change
She
your
does
life.
make really
It'll
good
change.
cookies too.
Yeah.
Her cookies are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Everything she bakes
I
is
think I had
amazing.
some. I think Casey made some Kelsey's
Kelsey's
own recipe
cookies.
cookies,
Yeah.
and they were really good too.
Yeah.
Is it a family recipe or anything, or does
I
do you
don't.
know?
I don't think so. No, but
It's
she
just,
just sort of
she's
perfected it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably
Crafted
perfect
it
the
over
first time
time.
she made it.
I'm
but
sure it was.
Wow.
It's just my
Yeah.
wife.
She's
So,
amazing. Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is. Everything's incredible.
His favorite movies is The Incredibles.
How did you know? I'm just kidding. All right,
Mr.
moving on.
Incredible. Yeah, moving on.
Favorite vacation? One you've been on or a dream vacay? Or staycay?
Man.
Or both.
I'll do something I've been on first, and then we'll do the dream. I think. I got to go when I was not too long ago, 5 or 6 years ago or so. Yeah, I think so. Went up to Vancouver Island in British Columbia, and that's where I was born, but hadn't been back to see family there. And I have an older brother, Paul, who lives up there with his wife, and I have a couple of nephews up there. And it was just interesting to see this place where I was from, still have family there. But really, really beautiful. And just kind of that weird sense of like, what would have, sort of the what would have been like if we were there, raised there and stuff. So it's kind of interesting that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So Vancouver Island is beautiful.
Awesome.
And my brother and his wife, we stayed with them, and they're really close to the east coast of the island, so they face the sort of back toward the mainland of Vancouver and stuff. So it's really beautiful.
Wow.
And dream vacay. Oh man, I don't know. Europe, I don't know. Like every time I talk about this, Kelsey and I just look at each other like knowing like, this is going to be like a perpetual disappointment in life. Like we're never going to go, like the thing I dream about when we're in California is just being in South Dakota, which is just kind of,
That's adorable.
Yeah. But I think we'd like to go to Europe together or Ireland or, somewhere.
You could go with Justin to Ireland and his family.
If I could go with anybody else, I'd be happy to go.
You should go to Waldrug.
I would love to go.
Waldrug's
Yeah,
pretty-
Waldrug. Have you been there?
I've been to Waldrug. I've been to Waldrug.
Have you been there twice?
I have been to Waldrug.
Okay,
twice.
that's even more of an accomplishment
And
than being there once.
You keep going. Go for the donuts.
Yeah,
Go
I
for
haven't actually had the
The
donuts.
free water.
Go for
The free water that's not
You've not
actually
had-
cold.
Come on, man.
Well, it wasn't.
You can't.
It's
disgrace
free water.
them.
Yeah.
I know it's good, but it's just they really build it up. Is the coffee still a nickel?
You seem really critical, right?
Sorry.
They had some high
I like
quality
Waldrug.
H2O.
I'm not getting up.
Or maybe you should have a timeout.
Now we've lost a future sponsorship with Wall Drug. They were going to plant
We were going to get on one of their billboards.
Yeah. 4,000 miles away. Also, the Pontification Pals.
Coffee's still 5 cents.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there is some crazy stat of like the furthest Wall Drug sign.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
even
it's
in a
like
different
on-
continent or
yeah.
something.
Like Antarctica.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah.
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 It is. It's crazy.
That's
That's why you see all the
Yeah.
penguins and Eskimos at Wall Drug.
And you wonder why people don't really know about South Dakota much when you get out of here. It's
Yeah, what's the deal?
They're like, we've heard of Wall Drug. I don't know where South. I have no idea where South Dakota is. I know where Wall Drug is.
We've heard of Pierre, but
Pierre?
crazy. Okay, I have. Do you have any random questions?
do,
for me? Okay, so
actually.
I'm going to give you my first one, Matt. A
You
random
have
question.
multiple random questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
That's
So my
great.
first one is: what is your weirdest interaction working in DSU admissions? Because I know that job was kind of.
HIPAA.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
that's
You don't
not
have
for
to use
anymore.
names.
Yeah. I
Or a funny story from DSU, or I don't know.
Man, because there are some I could share, but they would be like sort of disparaging and whatever. And I don't.
Can you give us a story about Amber?
I don't want to. A story about my former employer? No. about my former boss. I love my former boss, Amber, very much. I'm just trying to think of like something that's like funny and yet not like throttlingly strange. I did have a student one time come. This one's not that bad. I had a student come for a visit one time, and his parents sat at the table, and he laid down on the couch in that admissions sort of lobby room, whatever that room. The Montgomery room, I think. He laid down on the couch and proceeded to just be on his phone the whole time, and his parents did the admissions talk for him, basically. Like, I just gave them the information, and that was it. Gave him his T-shirt, and he had it out. And I was just kind of like, it's like zero energy it takes to sit at a table. You don't even have to ask any questions, but he couldn't do that. So
I'll bet he did well in college.
yeah, but yeah, you have some amazing people that come through the doors.
That wasn't Bailey, was it?
It was not Bailey.
Okay.
No.
Pretty much a disappointment. He's like, oh man.
A disappointment. What? Another disappointment.
If only this kid could like help run a podcast someday. He's never going to do anything meaningful with his life.
Well, hey, Matt is the guy that did get me to come to West Center originally.
Oh, I
But
did.
then
And then you
I
deconverted.
was like, I didn't
That's
know.
all Matt's saying. I was like, wow.
Oops.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, next.
His worship.
Here, I got a question that'll take your mind off of that insult. Since you,
Little aloe for my burn.
yeah, you've
Okay.
been around Noah a bit.
Yeah.
Do you have any embarrassing stories about Noah? That you
About
can
Noah?
remember? Yeah. Or that involve him, or embarrassing about you.
Just anything embarrassing in general.
About
Just to talk
anybody
about
on
you
this
two.
plan. Oh,
about us in general.
Yeah. I just want to.
I don't know if you were going to bring this up or not. I still have an amazing photo that we took sort of in collaboration. One time a windstorm came through when we lived in Madison, and we had a pretty steep pitch on a piece of our roof. I don't know, whatever that vent ridge cap or whatever that thing is came off. And I'm terrified of heights. So I was like, this isn't happening. I'm not doing this. But I know a really dumb person who might be willing to get on top of a roof.
Wow.
No. So I called Noah because I knew he'd be willing and he'd be capable. So called him, and the best part was that we have this amazing picture where he took his phone out. I'm standing on the ground and I look like a tiny little ant because he's that far up, and I've got a goofy grin on, and I'm like going like this, double thumbs up.
and he looks more scared than I am.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
it was amazing.
It's really good. I think it might even be my profile picture for you.
Did you
when
did you tie yourself to anything?
No. I was just sitting on the edge
It
of
made
the
me
roof.
sick. He just inched along this ridge,
Yeah.
probably 25, 28 feet in the air.
Yep.
Yeah. I also have a picture or video of you when we were on Trevor's roof when you were helping him with something, and him coming down the ladder and just literally terrified, almost like
Oh, I'm sure
it was the same
shaking.
face that everybody who wasn't on the ark had.
Yeah. That makes
When the
sense.
rain started rising.
A full
man.
diaper and a frown. I'm sure.
Exactly.
It was terrifying. I think I went up and down on that ladder probably 2 or 3 times, and that was it. Like I was like, it took too much.
You should have seen me when we had the storm here this last time. There's
Yeah,
one time
he
Chase was he watched. We were at the Conrads,
Yeah.
and I was cutting down a big branch, and it started to come down, and then it kind of hit the ladder. So I just like jumped off the ladder with the chainsaw.
He jumped off with the chainsaw one-handed. In my mind, you did a roll when you landed, but that might have just been me
I didn't
adding
roll.
something. It was insane.
And then did you
amazing.
see the one at the Los Angeles?
That's
When the
great.
tractor, I was in the bucket of the tractor. Or no, I was on the roof
Yeah.
trying to get a tree off, and the tree started to come down, so I jumped over the tree branch into the bucket of the loader.
You know, one day,
And, like, it's gonna get
your
me.
body is going to catch up with
Yeah,
you. Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Now
And
it's
you're going to be
great,
like,
but-
why is my bone sticking out of my skin?
That's why I drink 4 gallons of milk a week.
And it's called a compound fracture, and you caused it yourself by jumping off of something.
Yeah, probably.
My body's already killing me.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, okay. So, my
That was okay. Random question 1.
yeah.
You
I have
perm-
a second
You have
one.
permission
Do
to do one more between.
Do you
the-
have a
no, I'm
second
just
one?
kidding.
Yours might be better than mine.
Okay. So do you have well, we'll see. I don't know. So you are, correct me if I'm wrong, a twin.
Yes, it was part of the. It was bulleted on the sheet, and Chase was confused.
No.
No, Chase, you were confused. And no
I think we have
Oh, you
different-
had different notes. Okay, I'm sorry.
Because I added some stuff. But yeah.
That was amazing.
You have that on there? or
No, not at
Oh, he
all.
doesn't have that. That's
You
why.
should do that from now on. Every episode, add random things and be like, "You want to cover that point?"
I was confused because it said 3 sailors, Harry, Buddy, or something. And he was like, it's twins. And I was like, that doesn't say twins.
So do you have a classic twin mix-up? Or story?
Yeah, I got just yesterday. I was mistaken for John.
Really?
Yep. I won't name any individuals.
Yeah, that's fine.
It probably doesn't matter, but
No.
we were mistaken all the time. But I have these dents on my forehead. I don't know if you can see them. Can you see these 2 little lines
Yeah.
on my head? So,
I do now.
like from the age of whatever 10 or even younger, when we like growing up at West Center, we had long hair, and so an older woman or man would come up and they would just pull our bangs up, and they'd be like, "Oh, you got the dents. That's Matt," whatever. So that's how they were able to tell us apart by the scars that we had on our body.
Wow.
Yeah, or lack of scars.
I think that's how morticians identify dead bodies.
Yeah.
That's great.
But
Love it.
I don't know if I have any other sort of twin.
I'm pretty sure I called you John one time, and I never actually met John.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
It's funny.
yeah.
That's a blunder.
Yeah, I was still so dull. Okay, I had thought of one when you were sharing yours or your random question. What is the funniest moment you? Oh no, actually, let's save that. I'll put it down later.
oh my
I've got
God.
an idea now.
That's a lot of pressure.
You have the first half of the question, so just think about
What's
that.
the funniest thing in your life? Go.
Did you have another one, or should we move to the guest?
We can move on. It was
Okay,
bad.
you want to start the guestimony?
Yeah. So
What's your testimony?
how this works is you just tell us how you came to faith, what it was like growing up, when it like your faith became like real and you started living it out, how you ended up at West Center, and how you served in the church.
And then you could include like where
you
you're at now, what you're doing, kind of a thing.
Sure.
As much or as
Sure.
little as you want to share, whatever.
Okay. So how I came to faith. Yeah. It's been a progression for me, for sure. I wouldn't have always called myself a Christian. I remember praying a prayer, a believer's prayer, when I was a really little kid, 5 or 6 or something like that. I don't know. I think my mom was kind of talking us through stuff. I don't know. I don't remember how much I remember, but that happened. And then, it's basically like childhood. Childhood was not good for my twin brother and I. And so this will just be it'll be a little real. But we were abused as kids. And not long after the abuse occurred over a number of years, the perpetrator passed away. And so there was like, in my category, or in my mind, I had this category of like, what am I supposed to do? There's no, like, as a little kid, first of all, you have your concepts of sort of protection and safety have been removed. And then also the sort of the new category of injustice has been introduced, because any form of sort of reconciliation or just sort of understanding, that sort of thing, it doesn't happen, or it can't happen, at least in that at that time, in that space. And so for me, that abuse really sort of ramped up in me, just needing to find worth and value in getting people's attention, in sort of seeking out any way to possibly feel good. And as a kid, and as a teenager, and then as a young adult, it generally manifested itself in lust, and pornography and things like that. And so just sort of spilled out all over life, and was really, really destructive. And so you take that and you couple it with the fact that I'm being raised in the church, and the whole the sort of the shame aspect that goes along with being an abuse victim and stuff. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to name the individual. You don't want to be sort of the victim and that kind of a thing. And so you put it away. You put on sort of a brave face for everybody. You try to make everybody laugh, which is something I still try to do. And I believe it's a gift from the Lord in the long range. But that coupled with sort of this just massively sort of mushrooming, debilitating sin that's sort of living in my life, this driver to find my worth and my value anywhere I can, and generally pointed in one direction, ended up causing just a lot of damage throughout high school, into college. I get married. That certainly didn't, solve anything for me. And so just manifested itself in a lot of selfishness, a lot of turning away from each other, sort of reciprocal wounding between my wife and I. And then the Lord sort of started finally waking me up to both my own wounds that I had received and the wounds that I had caused. And so at that point, you just start seeing like, oh man, like I need a savior. Like I will continue on with these wounds, but I will also continue to wound others, because I'm a sinner by birth. That's how the Lord has defined it in His Word, and that's, I've come to know that more so by just living it out. So it was a slow progression. I got involved in a men's group at about the age of 24 or 25 when we were in Madison, Wisconsin, going to like a sort of a mini mega church, about 5,000 people on a Sunday or something like that, just like this. Which is cool, and then also not good, because there's no getting plugged in. There's actually, you got to really push yourself to go and get sort of plugged in with people. But at the same time, the Lord started calling us back to South Dakota. So had some stuff going on with my mom's health a little bit at the time, and wanted to be around a little closer as she was getting older. And Kelsey and I, both of our families are basically here. And so we felt that desire too, to also get plugged in the church. And we came back, and it was with your last Pontification Pals guest that, this relationship started forming, where Justin starts kind of just probing me a little bit, questioning me, pushing me, giving me some stuff to read, just generally discipling me, and then for both of us to hear the gospel, throughout, Trevor and Justin's preaching, that the Lord started to grow real faith in us. So that happened, and then about 2018 or something like that, my oldest brother that I mentioned in Canada, he mentioned, hey, if you want to, our dad is probably not going to be around for too long. He's in just bad shape, bad health, and I'd never really known him at all. I'd met him a couple of times, but he said, you should come up and meet him. And so we went up there and had some conversations with him, but I never talked to him about faith, not one time. And then he died. I remember we were at our house in Madison, South Dakota here, and the Bundys were there, and I got a phone call. It was from his wife, and he had died or whatever, and it was really a catalyst to say, sort of don't want to say like you can, it was I'd had enough of sort of making excuses for not sharing my faith or something like that. I mean, I obviously felt bad that I hadn't said anything, but this was a guy who had, his life had been spent running from his own problems and just sort of building up a mountain of regret. And for me to have not offered him, the sort of the life ring of Christ, was something that kind of, put a little fire in me to want to take whatever pains I have in my life and use those things, and see them more so as this seedbed that Christ used to plant hope in his gospel. Where it could just be weeds and thorns in one person's case. If I was, loved enough to have received this grace, I should show it, and I should talk about it. So that sort of, along with, the church stuff going on and hearing good gospel preaching and just the healing that was starting and building in our marriage, that pushed me toward ministry. So went to T4G in 2018, and I just thought these guys were preaching. I thought I'm going to be a preacher. And I remember actually at a DSU admissions thing, we went to a conference in Dubuque, Iowa, and I remember being at a cover band concert in a casino in Dubuque, and as they're playing like awful, Journey or whoever it was, name any, probably half the music you love, but
REO Speedwagon,
whatever it was, I just had like either Spurgeon or Calvin's some sermon words in my head. Like I couldn't there's just a bunch of like drunk people just like surrounding and singing, and all I'm thinking about is just sermons in my head. So sort of when I kind of knew this transition is going to happen. So moved in 2020, sold our house in the middle of COVID, and Kels didn't have a job, and we didn't kind of know how things were going to work out, but the Lord has really been faithful and got us planted well in California for a short season of seminary, 3 years. So just finished up year 2, and now I'm interning at River Community Church in Del Rapids. So,
which is probably going to be done by the time this maybe comes out, because you're for the summer of 2022.
Right.
Will have
right. Yeah. So, and I'm just doing some preaching and some worship leading and teaching and
which you did a lot of worship leading when you were at West Center.
Yeah.
Especially during the internship when you did the year one. You were the
It-
first of this, at least of this recent kind of pastoral internship program that we started since Justin's been here and stuff. I know in the history of West Center there's been positions like that,
Right.
or whatever, but you were
Right.
kind of the first. So it can only get better from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
There you go.
Great. So we've had
Encouraging.
now both interns on. That's actually part of the curriculum guide for pastoral internship. I know we've got a new one coming that'll be here when
It's a requirement
this
to
comes
be on
out, so he'll have to be
Pontification
on
Pals.
season 2 as well.
Yeah.
It's a requirement. You must be
Yep.
on the podcast.
I like that.
The official, unofficial podcast of West Center.
Not affiliated, but affiliated,
Yeah.
but not affiliated. But like loosely, but
Yeah.
not really.
But kind of.
Like, yeah.
Because everybody that's been on besides Andrew is West Center.
Where's
And yeah,
West
and
Center?
even he's loosely affiliated.
Yeah, that's
you know.
true. Yeah. His parents go.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I
That's
love it.
great.
I love it.
Encouraging story. Encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yep.
Now, this may be one of the things I've looked forward to the most in a podcast for a long time.
Yeah.
Neither of you know about this, but
I do not.
so this title today
That's
that was
good.
a face to
That's
be made
fun.
a sticker, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
the tale of today's tale. Today's title is Mere Humanity: Tales of Buttinsky Birds, Catholic Candles, and Dogmatic Disciples. So the first part, Mere Humanity, we're gonna go with. We went from our guestimony now to matrimony. Not matrimony, but
Holy matrimony.
so I took the liberty of texting a few individuals that have had the pleasure of knowing you to see what kind of stories I could ask.
Great.
So
It's fantastic.
let's get started.
Sure.
Let's get to
So-
Most of these
let's get
people,
to it.
I want these people to know.
Oh, I've got them.
They-
I'll name them.
Yeah, they are. At the time of this reading, now my enemy.
Hey, they've got a couple months to prepare.
And I will be praying
At the time of the
imprecatory psalms upon them.
Nice, dude.
And the Lord has justice
Hey,
and wrath.
I remember there was a sermon, I think Justin preached it, and he was like, you should pray for people to suffer because it builds up endurance.
There you go.
So maybe pray for them to suffer.
They were probably praying for me to suffer, which is why they shared information.
And it's about to come true.
Doesn't it feel great to experience an answered prayer?
We're going to experience one right now when Matt suffers.
All right, here we go.
Stories.
Am I supposed to do something when you tell me these?
I'm just going to probe you to tell a story.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Well, first of all, this is funny because I pointed this to Chase as you went to my room to get some socks. The fact that you have a sweaty foot problem.
Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and just talk about it if that's what you want to do.
I was hoping you could just show off.
I don't know when this happened. Like I remember it specifically at DSU in the admissions office.
Because it connects to the fact that you were known for not wearing shoes or socks
Yeah,
at the church.
I think and I think this is a scientific thing, but like when people are highly stressed, they produce like a different type of sweat, or there's a yeah. No, somebody should look this up because you're going to look at me like So there's like a particularly acidic type of sweat, and I would run through a pair of shoes in like 2 months. I would change socks like twice a day or something like that.
Actually, you know what, Matt? My dad has the same thing.
Yeah, there you go.
His steering wheel.
Yeah, yep. People have really acidic hand sweat and stuff. It's a real thing.
You should bottle that up.
So
Sell this
to people.
sell it as a war
It's a
tool.
weapon.
Yeah. So, but the problem has gotten better because I think a lot of it was sort of related to some mental stress that I was under, probably as the Lord was shaping me, which sounds ridiculous, but I think it was real. It's so discouraging, when I'm opening up my heart,
I
and
love
you
it.
guys
We
are just,
appreciate it.
No, so now I don't trash a pair of shoes in 2 months, and I wear
proud
wool
of you.
socks constantly. Mary Wool is the top name. Okay,
have to write
we're not
that down.
sponsored, obviously, by Mary Wool.
Mary Wool.
Mary
Mary
Wool.
like the
Loosely
name.
affiliated.
MERI.
Mary like happy?
MERI.
MERI.
Wool. Yeah, like merino wool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Bailey's barefoot. That's fine. It's to each their own, but I need it. Okay, or else other people suffer.
Well, thanks for not.
So it can be
letting me
100 degrees out, and I'm usually okay. It's 100 degrees
It is.
today, and I'm not wearing. I mean, I am wearing wool socks, but I'm not wearing my wool
It
socks.
says from
Yeah.
this article on healthline.com, stress sweat is real.
Yeah, stress sweat. There we go. That's what it's called.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so then I would wear socks constantly so that I wouldn't trash the shoes.
That makes
See what I'm
sense.
saying? So it was more of it was born out of an economic necessity.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. Why do I want to buy shoes all the time when I can just buy socks?
No, that's
Yeah.
true.
Did that same sweat come out of your face?
Yeah.
Have you tasted it?
No, it was a different time
Okay,
on my
next.
life, man. It was a different time on my life.
From your brother, Mr. Joseph Bundy.
Yeah.
He said that you had some anger issues growing up and something called snapping.
Oh man.
Also, Trevor said once you get started laughing, you literally can't stop.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for that to happen.
I have a problem.
Which is why you had to enter. That was partly why you had to
yeah,
enter.
we'll get there. So
I haven't gotten to the best
Joe's-
ones yet, so we'll see that, I'm sure.
it's funny now. Like back when I was a kid, in like middle school, high school, it was primarily middle school. Yeah, I had. We had some serious anger problems, but I think they were circumstantially related. Like the further back the older I get, I look back and I think, yeah, these kids were just trying to like lash out because they, it was a rough childhood or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was super funny, and it was Joe would love to just like. I remember the story he's referencing particularly is at Heaven's Castle, and a few guys got on top of me. And they were like holding me down with couch cushions, and they were just like, just pestering me. And they would do it just so that I would freak out. And so I remember freaking out,
tried
and
it.
I ran to a closet, and I grabbed a music stand, and I just started swinging as hard as I could. And I didn't care.
At
Like, I
anything?
literally would not, I wouldn't have cared if I, like, drew blood. Like, it wouldn't have been like, yeah. You know, it would have been like pure rage. And then I remember grabbing a brick and chasing somebody outside. So it was real destructive anger from a hurt and scared child. But at the time, it was funny.
Did you guys? Was there a story sometime when like Neil came in and you guys broke a table?
That
or
was
something?
completely. So that was a good one.
Do tell.
So
I've heard this one, I think.
Yeah, I like this story. So this one's a little less traumatic. But we had an old like 60s sort of Formica top big slab table with metal legs, and I don't know what action movie my brother and I had watched, but we always would pretend that like the one would pick up the phone. And it was an actual phone back then, not a cell phone, right? So we'd pick up the phone, and then we would pretend that there was a red laser dot, whatever, on our head, like we were getting sniped. And then we would pretend to get shot, and we would fall down on the ground with the phone, right? And so one time, for dramatic effect, I got shot, and I thought, man, I'm really going to play this up. I'm going to jump on the table, like I'm going to fall on the table. And as I fall on the table, all four legs rip out. And I just I slammed down on the ground. Like, literally looked like a dog who just like got like squished or something, right? Like all four legs are out. And I remember we called Neil, and Neil came in, and he tried to duct tape the legs back into position. And so then by the time my mom got home, the table was like this, like it was half fixed, but it was sort of, sorry if you can't see this, it's like, I don't know, 20 degrees off of flat. And so, like everything would slide off of it or whatever. But then, we had, I always like to say, thankfully my grandparents died within 6 months and we got their table. So
the Lord worked it out.
the Lord worked
He
it out. We got a
provides.
new table.
Good.
No. Yeah. So anyway, that was
man.
great.
Incredible.
We were really destructive. Our basement got destroyed. We had this thing called the Basement Hockey League of America, and we probably ruined 6 or 7 sheets of drywall that like Neil had to come and replace. But we would do full body checks into the wall and just drive right through. So and that was you take a check from Joe Bundy and you'll yeah.
It didn't matter if they were concrete cinder blocks.
I don't know what. Yeah, we love to play basement hockey. So
Love it.
you can ask some alums at West Center. I think Joel Lawson played some basement hockey. I talked to Ryan Franchuk down at RCC. He played basement hockey with
That's
us and
awesome.
stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, we used to play all the time.
Okay, so Joe told me to ask you.
How many stories do you have?
This is only the second one from Bundy, and then I've got some others from others.
Great. Do you have? How much time do we have?
Oh, as long as it takes to get through these. Who is Gerd?
I don't want to.
I was afraid of like a spit take about to happen.
Yeah.
No. Joe and I, dearest Joe and I, and my twin brother John, but primarily Joe and I, because we probably see each other a little more often than John is out in South Dakota. But we play a game, I think it's from 1998 or 1999, called Heroes of Might and Magic 3. And it's an amazing game. Okay, it's an amazing computer game.
Oh.
And there's a character on there who's like this haggard woman, and her name is Gerd, G-I-R-D. And I can't remember what her special skill is, but we're either always like, there's a blue guy who shoots. He's got this skill called chain lightning. Anyway, it's a big thing. But if you haven't played it, you need to play
I'm
it.
thinking about it.
Is it
Yeah.
possible to play it these days?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
download it. Yeah. Anything is possible.
For the one who believes.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Two really big computer guys in here.
Yeah, you guys could probably find it for me on the dark web.
Yeah.
Bailey will do it.
Bailey will do it.
And Bailey has now lost his job.
Who is
Okay,
who is
this
Gerd?
one.
Hey, Joe. No. Okay, no.
I haven't even gotten to the best ones yet.
Okay,
Hey, could you
continue on. This
could
is
you
gonna-
say
I
for
don't-
me the word that would be opposite of like man or men?
No.
Come on.
Okay, I'll say it. I have to think about how people want me to say it. Women. I say women.
Wait, that's not normal?
I say women with like a double short E. I say women.
Women. Like Yemen?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I say women.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're still getting a little bit of a soft I. I'm like a double soft E. Women. Yeah. That group of men and women. And I get constantly harassed. Women.
What about getting beat up by a 5-year-old at Christmas?
Yeah. That's a good story. These are from Kelsey now.
Yep,
We've
Kelsey.
moved on to Kelsey. So there's this kid who I think he's 14 now. His name's Sutton, and he's more of a man than I'll ever be for sure. He's like a farm kid, right? So he knows how
Yeah.
to do everything. He can drive trucks and back up trailers and like just probably things with farm animals where you like pull a calf or I literally I'm sure he can do it all. Put up fence and stuff. And he was 5, and he was like jacked up on Diet Mountain Dew. Like he was really excited. And we were crammed into her grandparents' house for Christmas. And so a lot of it, like there were probably 10 of us that were literally eating in a bedroom, like around a bed, because there was no. It was always great because it was sort of like this is that many people that it was sort of a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
But this kid, looks at me and he's like, well, there's a weak man to come after. And I get it. A lot of people look at me and think that, they're not, he's physically impressive. And so this kid, I remember he came up behind me on the bed, and I remember him putting his leg around my neck or something like that. And just started lean back and just started choking me out. And then and then I lift him off and take him off me. I remember he spit in my face. And I'm just stunned. And I don't know how to discipline a child. I'm just kind of I'm wiping spit off my face. And I remember Kelsey's brother grabbed him and some proper amount of discipline or whatever. But it was it was amazing. It was but it was the Mountain Dew. I don't want to blame this kid because he had probably three 12-ounce Mountain Dews for a 5-year. He
That'll
kept
do it.
stealing. Family gathering, no one's watching the
Right.
cooler. He's just shotgunning this diet Mountain Dew and going ah! And he saw a man that looked like a woman and he came after me. No, just a singular woman.
A women.
So anyway, there you go.
Wow. I wish I could have gotten a video.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, so this is courtesy of one of your nieces. Something about a pogo stick.
Yep. So, man, there are a lot of good stories about me. So I was in, I think it was in either end of grade school or into middle school, and my friend Jesse and I, Jesse Smithers, son of Gary and Dina, we got really big into pogo sticking, and so we were we'd love to try to do 180s or 360s and go off the curb and stuff. And I remember I was like, it was on a Wednesday night because I remember having church that night. And I was like, I'm going to go off. We had 4 stairs at the front of our house. I'm going to go down all 4 of them. And I think I cleared the first stair. And then on the second stair, the little sort of chair tip or what, you know what I mean? The, sort of that fat rubber pad thing on the foot. It caught on the lip and then it slipped off. And all of my weight went down. My hand slipped off and it came back. The bar came back and hit me right in the face.
Oh,
And my uncle, who's who was a math professor at Dakota State, he told me he did the math, and I was also a chunky sort of prepubescent whatever. He's like, I think that was about 800 pounds of force that hit you right in the face, and it was like a metal rod, right? And so my sister Jill was there, whom I love dearly, and this corner of my mouth covered my entire mouth. My lips swelled up so bad that my mouth was covered. It looked like I had a flap. And the inside of my mouth was bruised. My eye was black and blue. All of my face was black and blue. Oh, no. And my lips was swollen within it's like when a kid gets a goose egg and it swells up immediately. It was within 10 seconds that my lip covered my mouth basically. And I walked in and my sister immediately started laughing. She looked at me and she just busted into laughter. And I would have too, because I'm sure it was like, who is this alien person walking into the house? Oh, so, and then I went to church, and I remember, I was telling everybody my war story, and they were really excited.
Was it the truth, or was it like I saved these?
Oh, no, I think I told them that was, because I thought it was probably cool at the time. I was trying to jump off some
fell
stairs.
off a pogo stick.
Yeah.
Going down 4 stairs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go.
Okay, back to Kelsey. I got a couple more from her. She said that you're a really excellent driver.
I would have to agree, Kels. That's true. I'm a really excellent driver. No, as I've gotten older, I'm realizing that I am not a very good driver. Right now, I'm driving my mother-in-law's
She
vehicle.
used the words "wounded vehicles of the past."
Wounded vehicles of the past. Kelsey is an excellent driver. I didn't mention this in my story, but I'm an art. I went to school for art, right? So I did lots of art stuff, and I'm a very visual person, and that can be helpful in some scenarios, and then really bad when you're driving, because all I do is I want to look at everything that I'm driving by. And so the only things I've ever hit are inanimate objects, which is great.
Good.
So like poles primarily, but I have a tendency to get distracted, and like we're at this gray space in our marriage where it's sort of like, should I continue to be the primary driver and also tolerate her helpfully, but also sometimes in a reaction of being scared, sort of telling me how to drive, and I get it, because she's probably terrified every time we go on the road together, which is not a fun feeling for her. But at the same time, it's like, you want to be the man, you want to drive. And I'll probably have to give control of the wheel there someday.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, yeah.
Okay, I got 2 more, and I'm really excited about
Dos
both
mas.
of them.
Hit
I'm
it.
going to go with Kelsey, and then another story from Trevor. So Kelsey said a trip to O'Hare Airport, pawing on the door of a train.
This story is so old, and it's not even... She thinks it's so funny. It's because
We'll be the judge.
Okay, we call it in our marriage, we call it panic mode. So Matt goes into panic mode, and he makes really bad decisions, and he the brain shuts off, and it's fight or flight. And apparently she finds it humorous, but okay. So it wasn't that big of a story, but I'd never ridden the metro. I think it was a metro system, because the L is the elevated train that rolls around Chicago. So it was a metro. We were leaving the Chicago metro and going out to O'Hare. So I don't know how many stops we had, but we had an early morning walk to the train stop, and then we had a few stops to go. And I think I had no idea what stop we actually were supposed to get off at, or what direction we were going, for that matter. And I heard them say something that I thought was our stop, and I thought we were supposed to get out. And Kelsey she sat there like still as a log, and totally calm, knowing exactly where we were supposed to go. I'm thinking we were supposed to get off at the stop that we are now departing. And so I bolt up from my chair, and I'm like, we're gonna, because in my mind we're not only gonna miss like our connection or whatever, but we're gonna miss our flight. And I'm like, it's just one of those things. And she sat there and just watched me do it. Which I'm sure which is why she remembers it so distinctly. It's because it looked like, a man like desperate for oxygen. Just like, so anyway, that was that story.
That's so good. Okay, last one, courtesy of Trevor.
Yeah.
If your children are watching, you may want to pause for right now just to see. But Trevor said for you to share about the diarrhea / asthma attack on the drive home from Rapid City after backpacking in the Bighorns.
Trevor, why would you do this? No, it's really funny. I have like a weird food intolerance, and this is something that's also joked about, not only with Kelsey and I, but like amongst friends and stuff. I think I'm allergic to sulfites, which is a preservative that's naturally occurring in some foods, and other foods it gets added to. But it's funny that you guys should ask this, because last night I had a bit of an episode. And so this is actually here's a good embarrassing story. So the first time this happened to me was in middle school, and I was at Heaven's Castle, and I was upstairs, and there's a bathroom there, that little pocket.
Did it work in your day?
There's a little pocket bathroom. It did work in my day. And all of a sudden, I can't breathe. And this and I didn't mention this in the testimony. We had a brother who passed away when we were 10 and he was 16 of an asthma attack. And so, you know, it was this like super pressured situation. You know, you don't want to play around when you can't breathe. But I start not being able to breathe, and at the same time, you get like the tummy grumble. You know what that is. You know, we've all had like food poisoning or whatever
Every other week.
Every other week. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I go to the bathroom and take care of business over a series of minutes. And at the same time, you know, I'm going, you know, like it's like this super pressured environment. Like, you know, like you're sort of being squeezed on both ends, right? Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's really intense. And then I get done with that, and I'm in middle school. You know, I'm in a really vulnerable age, and I'm thinking, what are people going to think of me? You know, I had to leave class. Like, I don't know if I was, you know, if I smelled bad before I left. You know, some of the sort of the fireworks before the show, and I'm like, well, I can get out of this or whatever. And then I realized I couldn't because there was no toilet paper in the bathroom. So I either got to choose between the plastic Jubilee or Sunshine bag in the garbage, or I could just hike my shorts up and waddle home. And so I think I remember, I think I actually went in and asked for a ride. So I hiked my shorts up and I went, I need to get taken home or whatever. And we lived like a block away, so I don't know what I was whining about, but... So there you go. So so Wyoming was like that was a scary one that I don't know why Trevor's asking about it, because apparently it was humorous to him. But I had eaten like MREs, which are full of preservatives, and then I ate a bunch of Cliff Bars or something, and trail mix, which is also just chock full of sulfites. And then I had, we had like, I think fries and stuff had that in them. And I was at a Culver's in Rapid City, and it happened once, and then we made it half mile down the road, and I got to a gas station, and I had to text Trevor because I thought I was going to black out in the bathroom. So he had to come in there, and I thought I was going to pass out on the stall. But that's how my body like just passes these crazy sulfites.
So what did Trevor do to console you?
Apparently he laughed at me is what the moral of the story is don't do it in front of Trevor. No,
oh my God.
He was very concerned. So, and then we had a long drive in the Buick back.
This reminds me of the time that we had our buddy Paul and his wife Emily back last July. We were jumping on the trampoline. It was me and Bailey, and Anna and Chase and Nathan.
Yeah.
I think all on the trampoline. We all did a butt bomb at the exact same time, but Chase was just a little bit later, I think. So we all went, and then he comes down and literally probably hits the ground because all of our weight.
Yeah.
I think Chase hit the ground from an 8-foot drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's just...
And it was from top rope. Like, I wasn't trying to be gentle about it either.
He was just laying on the trampoline, just groaning, And I thought he was, because Chase makes weird noises all the time, and also Anna was laughing. So I'm just losing my mind laughing. He's crawling for the exit of the trampoline, just groaning in pain. And Trevor comes over. So I think at one point Anna's like, Trevor. So Trevor comes over. He's like holding his hand almost like it's going to be okay. And I just can't stop laughing.
Oh man.
Well, that's the thing is, none of us actually thought Chase was hurt.
No.
Like, we thought he just...
But then once I realized it, I was already too far gone.
So we were... In the context of my story, I thought you were going to tell me that somebody lost their bowels on the trampoline. And I thought, why would you tell me that? You know? I'm glad that was not the story.
But Trevor, you know when Trevor gets that like concerned.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
Yeah.
He coaxed me out like I was being birthed. Like he was just waiting for me.
Yeah, because he's like goes into first aid mode.
Yeah.
But then just know that first aid mode is not real Trevor, because that's why this is now on the sheet, because it's more just a joke to him. Isn't it, Trev?
Oh.
Okay, so
that was matrimony.
That was it. That was a lot of stories.
That was good.
Great.
There are far more, but we'll move on.
Okay, we'll go on to... How do you even pronounce the word? Buttinsky? Buttinsky Birds. Tales of a West Center Baptist internship.
What is this?
Like, kind of like Scamp, like rogue, like just kind of crazy, wild. Miscreant. So it's kind of like a wild. So tell us the tale of the
The Buttinsky.
Buttinsky bird as part of your West Center internship.
Yeah. So it was my. I preached 3 times during my internship at West Center, and it was my second sermon. I can't remember. I think it was in Mark. I was preaching, and I don't know. You'd maybe remember even how far I was into my sermon. It
was on Father's Day.
Was it?
Which
really?
is what is today. Today
Was
is
it
Father's
really?
Day when we're recording. It was
So
Father's
two,
Day.
2 years. 2 years.
2 years ago today.
2 years ago.
Look at that. How this all came
Is that
together.
right? Yeah, 2 years ago today. Okay. And
Unbelievable.
the doors of the church were open. I think maybe for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
It was a nice day. It was fine. That's fine. And I'm preaching, and then a bird comes in and starts. I didn't think anything of it at first because you don't expect a bird to be in the sanctuary, the worship center, and it's like flying around a little bit and sort of.
Then lands in the overflow.
Yeah, it landed in the overflow area, and then somebody shooed it over, and it sort of ends up underneath the balcony area. And I remember Josh Hollingsworth was near there, but I remember
it came out of the overflow, went straight up into the ceiling, and just
hit
floated down. It hit the ceiling
and
just
startled
floated
itself.
down.
Yeah,
and then
'cause
Josh
it
Hollingsworth went over and
pooped.
picked it up.
It pooped when it hit itself.
Yeah.
This is sort of a shocking experience, but
The bird was okay.
I just
for
remember,
everybody listening.
I was like, oh, this is a golden opportunity for me to make jokes.
Yeah.
And so, I wasn't. I tried not to get throttled by it because I was sort of like,
I remember you telling Kelsey to stay calm.
Yeah. Which brings up a great bird story that I can now tell.
Good.
Yeah.
Do tell.
This is for Kelsey.
Okay.
Very quickly. So Kelsey is terrified of birds. She says 2 things about birds. They have beaks and they're unpredictable. Okay.
True.
So which are both, those were totally true. And we came home to our apartment in Escondido one night, and there was I think it was a pigeon or a mourning dove. It was one or the other. It was a dirty white bird. And it was sitting on our landing. You come up these stairs and you turn, and it's an open landing or whatever, and it's sort of sitting there, and it can either like fly up and over, or it can just like fly up and hit the roof, which is exactly what it did. It sort of flew up and it hit the ceiling that's over us, this exterior ceiling. And I remember as we got to the top of the stairs, and Kelsey saw the bird for the first time. She's holding these bags that have one had like a crock pot and a big platter, like a ceramic platter and stuff. And she had the presence of mind to say, "This is my nightmare."
This is my nightmare.
Like, she literally says that. This bird takes off, hits the ceiling, and then dive bombs at us. And she drops to her knees with this bag in her hand, and the bag hits the ground, and we lost a plate or a bowl. We lost a bowl, like a big salad bowl. And then we have this neighbor, through the window, "Are you okay? Are you guys okay?" And Kelsey's like, "It's a bird, it was a bird," and whatever. And I just laughed at the whole thing. 'Cause it's a bird, obviously, I don't care. And so there you go. There's another bird story. But
I love it.
anyway.
I love it.
Okay, so that was the bird story.
That was the bird story.
And Josh eventually got it outside after it got caught, and I continued on my sermon.
Yeah,
So
that was good.
second sermon, I got a bird.
Yeah, I love it.
That's great.
Do you have the one thing that I remember about your time is scaring you once in a while down in your office?
Yeah, and I'm
try- and you're
harder to scare.
a lot like
Yeah.
Trent, but I got you a couple times. I think.
Yeah,
So do you have a good story about scaring my mother?
Yeah,
Because Justin shared.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah.
And I obviously, you have video from today of
Yeah.
me scaring your mother. Your mom is scared of, she's scared constantly.
Yeah.
She just lives in fright. Probably should get some medication or something. But it was. I don't remember time frame or anything like that. But I remember it was in the basement, and of the church, and Trevor and Jack were down there together. And I can't remember what they were looking at.
They were, I think, doing some inventory in the room with
That's
the
right.
kitchen
They were
supplies.
looking at
for an event or something.
Yeah, and they were sort of counting. There were little chairs that little booster seats for kids or whatever that you put on chairs, and they were looking at those and stuff too. And I just walked up very slowly, calmly, and just scared your mother, and your mother screamed so loud that it scared Trevor, which was like this domino
Chain
effect. And I was like so excited that I caused a double scare. So that's probably the number one.
I've
I'm
heard
sure
that
there have been other
Lots
times,
of them, I'm
but
sure.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not really a feat anymore because your mother,
It's so
like your
easy.
mom would, if her phone goes off or something,
Yeah.
your mom gets scared. I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Chase scared her. I think we shared that on Justin's episode. You were just like there.
I just was standing in the
Existed.
doorway looking at Noah. And then she saw me standing there and had an aneurysm or something.
Fantastic.
Oh, man.
Fantastic.
So share with us a little bit about, real quick, I guess, just your time at West Center internship.
Yeah.
What it was like, if you had any other funny stories, but just like the impact it had. And
Sure,
what it was.
sure. Yeah, so it was a really God's wisdom was sort of in all of it for sure. There was this desire I had right at the get go, 2017, 2018. I'm like, I got to get into ministry. I want to do it now, and I think in some circles, in sort of greater Protestant land or evangelical sort of world, you can get a job at a church without an education pretty easily, pretty quickly. A lot of you can sort of talk about it like charisma over character a lot of the time, where a guy just has a desire, he might not have any training, and it can go well. Oftentimes it doesn't. And so I think Justin, along with the elders, just saw with a lot of wisdom, here's a guy that he's got the desire. We see some gifts. We want to sort of work these things out and give him sort of a slower on ramp in toward a path toward ministry. And so I was the sort of the guinea pig, and he had modeled the internship off of the internship program that I'm in right now. And so not like there was a reading component, which was a lot. I like to read, and I grew in my desire to read more and more during the internship program. But sort of like the preaching, the teaching, the sort of being exposed to different Sunday school and VBS and all just sort of the different faces that ministry takes in the church. That was a big part of it, was just the exposure piece, and then just sitting and thinking a lot of reading. And I'm sure you've seen Derek now do that a lot, and the new guy Sean right will be showing up, and I'm sure he'll do a lot of reading as well, and so it's just time to reflect on other people who have gone before, and most of them are, I think quite a few of them are still living, but like the internship materials are segmented out in a particular way. Sometimes it's mission, sometimes it's discipleship, sometimes it's ecclesiology or church body or whatever. And so you're just getting your toes wet in all of this stuff as you're living it out in the church. And so that was the on-ramp. I transitioned away from DSU and and spent a year there, and then the Lord used that as a sort of a confirmation year, and we were checking out seminaries that year, and then landed where Justin DeBerry went to Westminster, California.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
was there something else in there? No. Funny stuff that happened during the interview. Yeah, there was too much that happened. It was a wild year.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. And yeah, I like that it was, like you say, just kind of to get your feet wet, get you into ministry, and just see what it's going to kind of be like.
And I think they rightly sensed, and this is what seminary does as well, is like, charisma can get you a long ways, but characters will make you stick. What gives somebody doesn't, we love that there are ladies in ministry as well in a lot of different contexts, and they need character formation as much as guys do. And I know obviously we need the character formation for the pastorate specifically, but this was just a way to basically slow me down, because there's like this impulsivity that you get. You're like, I'm on fire for the Lord and I want to get out there and change the world. And it's kind of a slowdown for you to realize that the Lord is going to be the one changing the world through you. You're not going to be doing much of anything other than showing up. So it was just that slow down process. But yeah,
good.
That's great.
You have anything to add or ask?
One thing you probably might not even know about this, but a group of us back in the day. You might have been in it. I don't know. But
No,
we started
I know.
Yeah.
I already know what you're going to say.
What is it?
I was Stop. The meme page.
Yep, that's what it is.
I know. I knew about it. I had some insider.
I had plenty of pictures.
I had
to
insider
add.
info that you guys have. You ever seen this, Bailey?
Maybe.
The meme page. Yeah, they thought they were pretty cool, making funny memes of me.
They were pretty funny.
They were pretty funny, actually. They were pretty good. Yeah. So there was about a year's run of memes being made about me,
Yeah.
and it was primarily while I was. I still remember. I think Anna did a really good one where it was like the Nah family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So that's all I
That was
really.
good.
Yeah,
had.
the meme
Yep.
page. Yeah.
I don't think I have an actual serious picture of Matt out of the plethora that I do have.
Yep.
There's a lot of. I remember the one at VBS, the video I took where you had the blanket over your head.
I
And
look
you
like
did the
E.T.
ET phone home.
Yep.
And you did a perfect voice impersonation and everything. That was so good. That was the year you were a part of the VBS Vibes. You had the duct
man.
tape.
Yeah.
The-
Vibes.
this-
Pink duct tape on a black T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I wore.
We had a musical theme, kind of like a
We were like a
music
rock band or something.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
It was really.
It makes a little
it
bit
was
more
great.
sense now.
It was
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Oh man, awesome. Okay, next, Catholic candles. So
I don't even-
think
yeah.
it was me and Ashara
Yeah.
were in Dollar General
Yeah.
looking for something,
Right.
and I don't know. Somehow it came to my attention that you just had some issues with some of the theology that Catholics believe. And so, for whatever reason, that prompted me to when I saw a candle at Dollar General, a $1 candle that had
Sure.
Our Lady of Guadalupe on it. I'm like,
Yeah.
Bashara, we got to get this and get it for Matt. So I bought it for him and put it in his office. And that initiated a year-long process of hiding this candle back and forth. So like he put it in the glove compartment of my pickup. I put it in his mailbox. I don't know if I actually ever told you this. The one time it was in where you get the garbage bags. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Kelsey let you into the house.
No. That's what you think. I just left it off with Kelsey, and then she hid it
Oh, she
somewhere
hid it.
because he thought that I actually snuck into his home and hid it or whatever.
I
would've believed it.
had Gordy
He really built me up.
take the candle to the farm.
This was one of the last ones.
and hide it among the.
But he never got there. I went to look for something in the pickup, and there it
Intercepted
was in the pickup. So I brought it back because that was his last Sunday, and I hid it in his. But before that, I had Paul. The day that you preached with the bird, I had
Yeah,
Paul when he played drums. He went over to the pulpit, sat it there, and then sat down. So Matt, so it was not there until he comes up to preach, and he just looks and
It
here's
was
this
it was
candle.
on the pulpit.
Yeah.
So I walk up to preach, and there is a candle of Our Lady of Guadalupe on the pulpit, on its side.
And the video, you have it on Facebook Live. I have it still recorded because they zoom in to the pastor right as Paul is walking by and just places this candle and then goes and sits down.
Yeah.
And then Matt comes up. He's like, "What is going on?" And nobody knows. Nobody in the crowd except for me and Paul knows what's happening.
Did I say what is going on?
You said, "What's going on?" And then you said something about we got some hooligans around here or something. Then you go and set it over by the keyboard or something because Trevor's up there and laughing on the stage as well.
Oh wow.
Because before that, I think when we had the outdoor service,
Yes.
I think Paul put it on your music stand that one time on the trailer. But then this one was
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
one
yeah.
was
This-
good.
this-
He had it up. He took it up there
this
with
was
him
good.
drumming.
Yeah.
And then as he walked down, he put it on. And then you tried to get it in the.
The last time I knew of its existence was the Matarisi's had it because they were going to put it in the classroom
really?
for you. Yeah,
Oh,
but it's
I haven't seen it.
Jimmy
I
Casey.
wondered.
I don't know where. It's
I
at.
wondered if you had because they had. There was at some point I thought maybe you had tried to get it back.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think it went out with you to California
California.
because it was in the goodie bag my mom
Right,
gave.
Right. Yep.
wow.
So with
This
that,
is this. Yeah. So with that,
what's the deal with Catholics? We don't have anything against Catholics.
No,
There's just some theological things that
there
we differ
are.
on.
God does.
I'll let you lead this
Didn't y'all just talk about this?
on Justin's.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was primarily with
this is-
justification,
this
so
is
that
the-
one's
this-
good.
this
I'll let
one-
you lead this
yeah.
section.
Oh, okay. I don't know what to
I don't
do,
know what
but
to lead, but you were Catholic
Say
once.
say
I
something.
guess so.
huh?
Well, I don't know
Let's
what.
just, let's just sit here in radio silence for a minute.
Yeah, actually.
That's good.
Are you allergic to sulfites
Okay.
too?
Okay,
All right,
yeah.
all right.
So-
Okay, so Catholicism.
Yeah, no. What I was going to lead in and say was that there are many. Hopefully, there are many Catholics who are Christians just by
Yeah.
belief in Christ, certainly. And I don't know what you would like to hear that Justin hasn't already said, since you guys talked through justification and kind of the compare and contrast between Catholicism and Protestantism. But as I listened to his episode, the one thing that I kept thinking was that Catholics offer a way for the legalist in all of us just to be, it's just like candy, It's just like, oh man, I can finally do something. I can help myself out, and I think that's just music to our ears.
And I think we pick on Catholics for that, but it's
all of us. It's all of us.
I've had the same thing.
Yeah.
We deal with that, and Chase, and we've had conversations about it too. Just that, trying to work for it or measure up, even though we know that we're not trying to do that.
Yeah. And even in that, as Justin was talking through the sacraments, is sort of filling up the tank again and again. I think there's also something that, likely in sort of the confession and especially to sort of a priest as an intercessor or as an intermediary and different sorts of prayers, the physical tangibility of that can really ground somebody. To that being a really effective way for us to sort of move ourselves toward God. If viewers, if you didn't catch that, Noah spilled all over himself.
Not all over. It was just
and now he's sort of hunkering to cover his shirt a little bit. So I hope you see that. But yeah, that would be all I would say is I can sort of easily get the. I can get the buying into the physical, sort of tangible presence of sacraments or different types of prayers doing things for us. Same with saints and little altars. It's their presence that I think holds a little more power than maybe we would even initially give credit to. So you could go to the other side. You can even go to Protestant side and say, look at Pentecostals and the way that there's sort of an experiential component to their faith where they need to experience speaking in tongues or some sort of prophecy as confirmation of the indwelling Spirit. Well, as soon as you get yourself to a place where you're sort of having this emotional reaction, that's a really powerful thing. And it's hard for you to sort of put yourself, away from that and say, okay, are emotions confirmation for me? Or is God's word and what he says about my justification confirmation for me? And so I think if I'm crying, if I'm laughing, if I'm saying something that seems prophetic, that's probably pretty palpable in terms of how much power it holds over what I believe is true faith.
Right.
And so, I think it's, right, sort of conservative, whatever. And there's lots of leeway in between these things, but is saying no to sort of the emotionalism on one side and also saying no to just lots of sort of physical little statues and I don't know, you would know more about some of the sort of the ephemera of Catholicism.
I was gonna say when I did my first confession, there was that sense of like, okay, I went and when I did my first confession, I didn't know what I was supposed to be confessing because I didn't understand what sin was, so I just lied to the guy.
Should have confessed that.
I didn't, which was funny. But so I lied to the dude in the confessional, and then he was like, okay. I remember he said, pray four Hail Marys, and you'll be fine. I went out and I did that. And I remember feeling like, okay, this is easy.
Yeah.
I could do this the rest of my life, even though I don't know what sin is. I'll just keep lying during the confessional or whatever. But I remember like having that like to-do list. It's like check. Yep. Oh, you feel great after you finish.
We all, in a way, want that.
And
absolutely.
And it almost gives a sense of like false assurance too, because like, okay, I've done the checklist. Now we of course never actually use the real checklist, which is like with the rich young ruler or with the Pharisees, where Jesus is talking about go and do all of these things perfectly, and then you'll be good. Because if we actually use that checklist, we'd be
up a creek,
which we need to do once in a while probably to just humble ourselves. But even with the emotional aspect that I was thinking of when you were talking is like even good Christian conferences and stuff. I know when we went to one, Trevor kind of talked to us when we were youth group. He's like, okay, now you guys are kind of feeling the spiritual high right now, and it's gonna and then you're gonna go back. Don't let that fire, that drive to serve Christ just kind of dwindle away, or don't, because I'm sure we see lots of people do the altar call and stuff because they get that emotions going, and then they go back to their regular life, and then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like that emotional aspect is something that in some churches try and get that, like they try and set the mood for worship, and they try and so we have this really emotional experience versus just
Yeah.
I think that the object of trust gets exchanged, so we begin to trust our heart and our emotions over trusting Christ.
Yep.
And obviously God's word says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick, or whatever. So if we lean on something that's not Christ, it's going to fall. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
so
That's good
Good.
stuff.
Yeah.
Good soup.
Soup is good.
Okay. So, last part of today's episode, Dogmatic Disciples. Just because I needed a D to do the
alliteration.
BCD
We
there.
talked. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about this, and
Yeah.
I get it.
So, what are but it works well because as you're going into like seminary and you
Yeah.
find people that are, how do you avoid becoming this dogmatic disciple, or just, maybe share what that actual dogmatic means or whatever. But like, so just some of the things I had down, like how do we have these humble convictions, because we want to be, like we talked about with Justin too, and other episodes, like with Andrew, we want to hold firmly to what we believe, but also give room for, that I could be wrong in some of these things. There's certain things that you are, some of the truths in the
Right.
Bible that are
Right.
set in stone.
Right.
But, there's like these secondary issues, or there's
Right.
things that
Right.
we need to humbly hold
Yeah.
fastly to, things
Right.
that you're learning in seminary,
Right.
things that you might disagree with people on.
Right. I think about dogmas or beliefs kind of like, your skeleton. So they're going to be the, sort of the understructure. They're going to be the just whatever sort of undergirds your whole life, all of your practice and your whatever. Because we're basing our dogmas on Scripture. Scripture, right, is the base foundation, and then we're building our dogmas off of it. And I think becoming too dogmatic just shows itself in sort of being puffed up. I mean, you want to start cutting people off because you see something in them where they don't have, they don't put voice to, or don't write even a theological statement, or they don't posit something that you think, okay, I know that I've got it right. I'm the theologically sort of reformed person. I've got every T crossed and I dotted. They're just off. They're off base. And then we use that as a way to say, not only are they off base, but they're no longer sort of a follower. We can we end up diminishing a lot of people. And it happens, unfortunately, it happens, probably not, it happens at the seminary I'm attending for sure. And I'm sure it happens at every seminary. There's a place where knowledge is knowledge as a pursuit. It's sort of like the object of trust thing I just talked about. Knowledge becomes the pursuit rather than Christ as a pursuit. Christ and His church. And when knowledge becomes the pursuit, that's whatever you pursue is going to be the thing that comes out of you. And so, I've seen it happen. I've done it, certainly, and I'm sure it will continue to happen. I didn't say it, but I wanted to say it the first time I preached at RCC this summer. I'm going to sound like a seminarian because it's just sort of been sitting in that soup for a long time. I've been sort of simmering in it, and it is going to come out in a way that ends up being not as sensitive, too dogmatic, not as sort of pastoral or practical. So if it's good and it's just sort of the bones, our life then the way we practice is the stuff you see, the flesh that you see. And I think about the dogmas that we want to stick to are the muscles that we grow that are nice and strong on those bones. So you got some ones that you're not gonna be as sort of flabby as weak on, or as just kind of oh, that's okay. You can sort of hold that. You wanna make sure that those ones are flexed and strong. And you want them to show in some way, so we're going to stick to our 5 solas and things like that. But we're also not going to be like beat somebody over the head. I think that's another thing is we expect dogma to do evangelistic work. And dogma never does any sort of, if I were to lead in teaching somebody through a systematic theology book, they're probably going to get a little bored. Christ didn't come and teach people in really sort of linear statements that could be sort of back referenced with pieces of scripture. He talked in stories and parables because that's how people learn. People can hold on to a parable for a while, and they can see then the truths that support that parable as they chew on it. And so I think we want to live with the same type of posture in general. So that's how, I don't know. And we pray and we ask the Spirit to help us in that work, because that's how real change happens. The Lord changes people.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's good. Is there anything that you've either maybe changed your mind on, or anything really big that as you've been at seminary, or maybe just recently, it doesn't even have to be that you changed your mind, some truths that have really become more full to you, or just you've seen deeper or appreciated aspects of the Bible or Christ? Or
Yeah. Westminster, one of the things that they really hit on is looking at the Bible as a story, as one big story of redemptive history. And Justin told me I was going to see that, and I was going to get that, and that I was going to appreciate it and things like that. And I didn't really buy it. I think I had a reading of Scripture that was really segmented, and it's fine to know sort of the periods, the different sort of. I mean, we could go off the deep end and talk theology and dispensation and stuff like that. But seeing that God does weave a thread throughout Scripture of the seed of Christ, and then obviously sort of an anticipation of Christ coming, Christ's death, Christ's resurrection, Christ's ascension, waiting for Christ's return. It's a beautiful story to follow all the way through. And once you start to see that, you start to see how God's story just sort of sings all the time. Like you could be in like the most, what for many of us would be, sort of these throwaway books of the Old Testament where it's just a lot of data. And you go, okay, what was the Lord doing in redemptive history at this time? And how does that build up the story? How does that show us something that ends up, why is somebody in the New Testament quoting this really obscure passage? What could that have possibly have meant for them? And you start to see that even the way that Scripture was revealed throughout history, God had a story in mind. And that obviously you have one singular actor in Christ, but that God, the author, invites you into the story, and that you can, you're just you're a set piece. You're a fellow actor, an underling at least. But
I love that you bring that up, because in fact, just this weekend I read a book called Gospel Centered Kids Ministry, Children's Ministry. I think the guy's name Brian. Last name starts with a D. It's a long name that I don't exactly know how to pronounce, but I'm sorry. I apologize. He's the guy that's kind of in.
I thought you were looking at me like, supply me the name.
Kind of.
I don't. Brian.
Buttinsky or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways.
So he's a Pole. He's Polish?
I have no idea. I don't think so.
Well, you said it was. Yeah. Ski.
Okay.
Any ski
Is
last
really
name, typically Polish.
Okay.
It's just an aside. You can continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
No.
You looked mortified for half a second.
I just didn't know what to
So
say.
he's a Pole. That's like a.
Was it a joke that I missed?
So
Yeah.
Canadians are Canucks, sort of
Okay.
Polish people are Poles.
Yeah.
Norskies?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Swedes?
Okay. Good geographic lesson.
These are just noises. These aren't actually.
Go on.
Oh, so he's the guy. Oh, we just about got the coffee spit. We still gonna get it or no? No? You gonna swallow that without choking?
Heard it.
Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Okay, continue. I don't know where we're at anymore.
Okay. So this book that the guy
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the curriculum we use for Sunday school, for the kids Sunday school.
Gospel Project.
The Gospel Project.
Yeah.
He's kind of, I don't know if it's the president or a leader
Okay.
in that.
Sure.
Anyway, so he wrote this book, and I read it in a day. I mean, it was super good. It wasn't super long, but basically it had parts. So like the beginning part was kind of removing that idea of in the Old Testament, of reading the Old Testament as like moralism of things to do to please God or whatever.
Sure.
And then there was a part about, gospel-centered parenting, gospel-centered leadership, gospel-centered teaching gospel-centered kids. So it was revolving around kids ministry, but it's a book I would recommend to anybody. But so reading through that, and depending on when this episode comes out, I'll have preached or will be preaching in Wessington Springs.
Okay.
Trevor met the pastor there at a conference, and he needed somebody to preach, so he asked if I would be willing to do
Sure.
it. And that's going to be my sermons from the end of Luke.
Okay.
The road to Emmaus with the two disciples,
Sure,
and how
sure.
we
All of Scripture.
all of Scripture and the gospel thread.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of in the title. So I love how you said
Yeah,
that. Just
absolutely.
But the thread of the gospel throughout all of Scripture,
Right.
and then for me, I appreciate that practically for teaching kids, but that's important. We all need that to be able to read Scripture, looking at the lens of Christ in all of it, and not taking the story of David and Goliath, and we need to be brave like David and defeat our Goliaths.
Right.
That's just the typical one,
Right.
The kind of cliche that you go to, but it's that we do it all the time with
Right.
all the stories. He talks about how Noah and the ark is just this beautiful story that we all we paint on the wall, but we never have all of the millions of drowning people painted on the wall.
That'd look cute in a nursery.
Yeah, wouldn't it? How all the nursery workers feel when they're working in the nursery.
They're drowning.
They're drowning. But so I think it was a really good book. Through West Center and Justin preaching stuff in the Gospel Project, just being able to see that and read through the Bible that way better and teach that way better has been really huge for me the last several years.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And so that's really good. I'm glad that they do that at Westminster,
Yep.
and that's
Yep.
a big piece. And
Another book to throw out there. You might know the author, but Dennis Johnson. Justin gave us all a free book, which is a shorter version of the book he uses in seminary to teach. It's called Walking with Jesus, I believe.
Okay.
I'm slowly making my way through it, but he kind of hits the point of when you're looking at a text, no matter where you're at in Scripture, like there's a road that leads back to Jesus, whether it's like, I-29 or I-90, and you just go and you zoom there, or it's like a beaten gravel road, or like just you're in the middle of a forest and it's just lightly
A path,
a path, and there's always something to bring it back to Jesus and to bring it back to the gospel.
right,
Yep.
like the Spurgeon quote, with
Right.
all the little roads lead to London. So all paths in the Scripture lead to Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Isn't it all roads lead to Rome?
Well, not the Spurgeon. I mean, that's a word too.
That is another quote.
That's another quote, but
Yeah.
Spurgeon wasn't in Rome, so he talked
But
about.
many saints.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So it
Lots of saints were in
works.
Rome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Incredible.
I'm trying to read off the outline so we can.
Monotone wow.
Oh, anything's taught that I disagree with?
Yeah.
Great question, Noah. Thanks for asking. Man, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's certainly things that I disagree with, but I think it's a Presbyterian seminary, so they're going to have different views on baptism, different views on church ecclesiology, just like structure, and they don't have just like sort of independent churches. They're going to have sort of sessions and then even bigger groups than that. So there are some things that I disagree with, but generally, no. I mean, that's where I could be super dogmatic,
Right.
and they could be too.
Yeah.
And I think we go, okay, most of these points, 95% of these points we agree on now. A lot of hay could be made about the 5% we
Right.
disagree on, but the gospel goes forward,
Right.
And
One, as long as the 5% isn't a justification,
right.
Like I'm sure that those
Right.
are not
Right.
make it or break it.
Yeah.
Like I believe, something where you're like, I don't know if you're going to go to heaven if you believe this
Right.
kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. So,
Yep.
no, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy that I want
Good.
to rally against right now, but
I like it.
yeah.
Chase, do you have any other questions regarding seminary or that aspect?
It's been your least favorite class.
That's a good question. Least favorite class? Oh man, I've really enjoyed most of my classes. They're really hard. I think one of my least favorite classes eventually was one of my, sort of in reflection, has grown to be a really favorite sort of class. But we had introduction to, it was like intro to apologetics or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I want to know so bad. I want to remember. But Dr. Horton, who is the one that he's the one that has this, he starts with this, he's got an overriding analogy that he uses throughout a lot of his works, a lot of his books, that talks about the sort of the drama of redemptive history and how we're sort of the actors on the stage and God, the sort of the author, the playwright, etc. But there's a lot of philosophy that happens at Westminster, and I have no philosophy background whatsoever. Hadn't taken any history courses in college. I actually knew just a sliver of some philosophy from art history, but first couple classes, it's Plato and Aristotle and Parmenides, and then you're jumping all the way up to got Hegel and Kant and these people, and I'm like, who are we talking about? I'm like, yeah, all I'm doing is mindlessly writing notes, hoping that sometime in the next month I will have time to go look up who these people are and what he's talking about. And now, after you sort of sit in that stew for a long time, you're reading about these people, you're reading their works individually. You start to put it together, that much of how we think in the West is informed by philosophers 2,000 years and more ago, and even certainly more recent than that. So you need to know a lot of philosophy when you study theology. And actually, in the sort of historical church, the two were always together; they were never separated. But at the time of the Enlightenment, theology sort of got stuck as an offshoot, and it was sort of banished from sort of the study of philosophy. It was sort of now just a bunch of myths. So yeah.
Wow,
there you go.
Impressive.
Good.
But that was a struggle class for a while. Yeah. That's all I got.
Good. Do you have anything that you want to leave with the audience, to share with? Any encouraging word before we get to your closing Bible verse?
Any encouraging word? No, I'm thankful. Yeah, I'm thankful to been brought on, and I'm glad you guys are doing this. I'm glad you're bringing on people from church and the surrounding area. I think that's really cool, and I think it's good to. I think it's a good platform to encourage other individuals to think about what they believe, to think about where the Lord has brought them, and to reflect upon how that looks as they go out back into the world and serve the world. So glad you guys are thoughtful and also goofy, and
it's just natural.
That's it.
Thank you.
That's one thing that I like that when we talked about in Justin's episode, I talked about too, just going through and hearing, the stories of these people that many have been influential in both of our lives. Some of them Chase is kind of just recently getting to know and know better. I've had a jump start with a lot of them. But yeah, getting to hear their stories, sit down and for 10, 15 minutes or whatever it might be, hear their story, as I've heard bits and pieces of it over time. But and then just the different things that relate to them in life and how they're sharing with that. We all have different things that are we can bring to the table. And
right. Yeah, and I think the local church, we can often kind of diminish it, and we can think about podcasts getting some sort of bigger appeal as life goes on or something like that. It's getting, more and more people are listening. Right. And it's getting really cool.
Right. We're getting less and less.
And I think,
it's true.
I mean, I would, I hope that it's just it continues to be just a faithful ministry that encourages firstly the church, the local church.
And that's one thing, I don't know, I can't speak for Chase, but, I remember having directed VBS for a number of years now, at first, and it's not a bad thing to want to get more kids and look at numbers and kind of play around, when do the dates? What are the numbers, because that's one thing that I try and look at. Seems like we have the most kids come at the end of July-ish, so let's not do the beginning of June because we're fighting baseball and softball. That's a wise way to use that. But sometimes you get kind of oh, look we went up to this day, and and that's one thing that I'm glad that with this I haven't really been I don't really care how many people listen to it. I just enjoy getting to hear when people do talk about it, or mostly though just getting to sit with you guys and have fun. And
I got a
talk
free sticker today. Have you shown
Show
me
it off.
stickers? The trial by baptism by fire sticker now will proudly be displayed on my phone forever.
I love it.
Anyway,
Forever.
yeah.
It is all about numbers for me, by the way. He's just
Your life
to
must
me,
really be disappointing right
That's
now.
not
doesn't
Matt
get-
Stone. That's number 11 right
If
now.
this thing doesn't get franchised, and
I'm waiting for Burger King to hit us up with the sponsorship right now. Yeah, he's number 11.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, actually, I'll go on there and I look at our YouTube views and I'm like, that's more what I expected. Our first video was like, that's more than I could have ever
same.
hoped for, and now it's like we're mellowing out now. This is where
People
I
are
was.
just, by the time this comes out, it might have increased because they had a time to catch up over.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard a lot of people kind of hit a pothole at a certain episode that I won't name which one it was, but they had to get over that hump.
to get over that.
What are we? Why would you degrade your own show? Let's just move on.
I didn't say it was bad. I'm just saying they needed time to catch up.
That's
Look,
what I.
man, I listen to 4-hour podcasts. Like
Yeah.
all the time. So
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying. No, I
You
think
heard it
we
here
built,
first.
We
Get
built them
over
up. You have no faith if you can't hang with us.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. All right, I'm just gonna
Okay.
end with our favorite.
Before we get to that,
Yeah.
last question. What was your favorite episode so far?
Man,
I know they were all good, and you don't want to
Yeah,
but
yeah.
which one did you really enjoy listening to? I'm just curious. As we enter season 2
yeah.
here. And you've just about
I
this
just
is
about finished Justin's
because that just came out yesterday. We were recording, so
yep.
I know
So
you didn't
listened
get a
to that.
complete
I've
chance.
been on
but
my trips
otherwise,
to
you had
Dells
a
and
chance
back.
to listen to all of them.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed Lila. I really enjoyed Trevor, and Jimmy and Casey. I probably just Trevor, but it's because
No,
yes,
Yeah.
and I could sort of anticipate some answers and things
Yep.
like that. Yeah.
I think there's aspects. I think in that first season, everyone was fairly different that each one was just really fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, from Lila to
Right.
Joyce to Victor to
Right.
Trevor. You know,
Yeah.
there wasn't a huge overlap of like even personalities or stories or
Right.
so.
Yeah.
It was good.
So.
Okay, what do you got to encourage us with a verse passage?
Well,
tell us so we can turn there as well.
Yeah, so it's one you probably know well. I just talked about it with my dear brother-in-law Neil not too long ago. Romans 7:24 and 25, and there's like a debate. If you want
A
to
debate in the book of Romans?
if you want to get into an interpretive debate about it, there are some that say that the minority say that by the time Paul reaches verse 24, that he is only speaking sort of in a metaphorical sense. He's speaking as though he is a sort of symbolically representing a person rather than personally referencing himself. That's the majority position. Is sort of the symbolic hypothetical person, and then there's the Pauline I is the sort of the minority position, and I'm more of a sort of a Pauline I. I think he's putting his heart on his sleeve in this chapter, and I love the sort of the reality that he hits on in 24 and 25. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? And that's like, I think that's probably every Christian's thought at some point. When we're by ourselves, when we're feeling the weight of sin or just the weight of the curse.
Well, and even just going back to earlier in Romans about like creation
Right.
groaning and
Right.
longing. I feel
Absolutely.
like that's a little bit of the
Absolutely.
same sentiment
It's-
of just even it's not even just it's just you feel that weight of like just
Yep.
longing for heaven
Yep.
to some degree.
Yeah, and so that sort of the resounding 25, thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. And we can, you can pick up the so then as you want, but I just love that it's just like right into praise.
Yeah.
It's sort of an incomprehensible salvation. He's looking at how bad sometimes life can be, and how hard life can be, and how much sin can happen, both to a person and from a person, and yet there is deliverance. from Christ. So yeah, there you go.
Great.
I
feel
it.
encouraged.
I do too. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to become a thing, but on Justin's episode, we had a challenge to go and tell. I don't know if you haven't gotten to that part yet on this episode, but we had a challenge. We talked about justification. We had a challenge to go and remind somebody of their justification, of their standing before God, of how you are a son, or if you're talking to a lady, a daughter of God, just to remind how it's good to remind each other of that. And so could you, on the spot, come up with a good challenge for our listeners for the week?
For the rest of their life?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big things that needs to happen, probably, I don't know what in the world's going to be happening in whatever, August, September, whenever this bad boy is released. But I think loving our neighbor is particularly needed. And I think we can often turn away from our neighbors, especially when we perceive that there are some differences, lifestyle differences. There's an incredible high squeak in a plumbing line just above my head and to the right about 6 feet, and it sounds like a tea kettle is boiling, except for it's worse. And it's not stopping. It's as though someone is taking a shower.
I wonder if the audio can hear that.
It is incredibly. There are mice that are just running away right now.
I can't hear it in the headphones.
All right, so hopefully it's not being picked up, but anyway, so you all know what we're experiencing. Loving our neighbors. I think we just have a way of just like lopping people off as unsavable. Of looking at what's in the news right now is the whole cross-dressing drag queen story hour. I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
Yeah,
but I think there's like this gut check where we can be like, I see in the news a lot of Christians, so-called Christians, picketing outside of libraries and actually spewing hate rather than any form of love, any form of trying to get to know these people. And it is a moment to pause and reflect upon the simple reality that we are far more like those people than those individuals than we're not like them, and that we have one thing different, and that's that we've been given grace. I'm so sorry. It persists, and now it's changed tone. It moved from like a high E to now it's sort of at a B. So anyway, it's just an opportunity to go and build a relationship with somebody that if that happens to be your neighbor, that as uncomfortable as that might make us, we can remember Christ at the well, or Christ with a taxpayer, or some of the woman with the discharge, and the heart of Christ is not to silo those people off and say you're far from salvation. It's to bring them in closer, or to draw near to them. So I think we're called to the same thing, as uncomfortable as it might make us, and that our neighbor, these guys, this is like the most serious part.
Sorry.
It is very prominent. I'll give you that.
And I mean, obviously we think of the story of the Good Samaritan, and the neighbor is anybody.
Oh yeah.
So that's our challenge for this week.
I think
find a way to love your neighbor, whoever that is.
Right. If there's been a conversation, it doesn't. I think the other thing is it doesn't have to be like a good book we read in seminary talks about. It's not a, and maybe some of you guys have already read this, but just putting a pebble in somebody's shoe. And so I think the polar opposite is we can be like, oh man, they're obviously living in sin. We can see it sort of on the face of something, and yet, I mean, we live with sin all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like this blindness that takes us over. And I think instead of
praise God from whom.
Yeah, but it's like now it just sounds like it's anyway. So instead of moving toward like, hey man, you need to repent and come to the Lord, I think it's being kind to them, and when maybe they've faced a lot of adversity. It's we there's a false equivalency where we think in our heads that we are supporting them, their lifestyle, and I think that that's completely false. We can show them love and kindness because they're made in God's image, and they're as fallen as we are, yet, but through grace, obviously. So we just want to come alongside them and show them love, and I don't know, build a relationship. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
it's good. I like it.
So do that this week. Build a relationship.
Do that
and
your life.
Convert someone.
And then after the week, it's fine. You don't have to.
And then after that, you've sort of checked that box out. So, all right.
Good. We enjoyed having you on.
Thanks, guys.
It was really fun. Thanks
Great.
I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
Enjoyed
Yeah.
having you come down, and
Yeah.
hope that of course when this comes out it'll be over, but for your summer here that in Del Rapids that the internship goes well and the rest of seminary goes well.
Yeah.
For our listeners, they can be praying for that.
Yes. Yep. Appreciate that.
And excited to see where you and Kelsey end up. Maybe hopefully selfishly it's in the good state of South Dakota here.
Yep.
But we know wherever you guys end up, it'll be the Lord's leading and directing, and we're excited for that. So make us West Centerans proud. The first, you have a lot on your back.
Oh my gosh.
We are proud
Almost
of you.
too much on your back. You should think about how much you really do have on your back every day.
I think about the hair on my back.
Okay, that's it for today. Join us next time on the Pontification Pals Podcast. And remember,
Love Christ, love others, laugh less.
Yeah, buddy.
Good soup. Okay.
Good soup.
I'm going to go urinate. 'cause I had a lot
Let's
of
get
water.
on then.
Because you heard that.